Hi, this is Sondra Sneed, and thanks so much for joining me on this amazing journey. What you're about to see is the video that I recorded when I went to East West Bookshop in Mountain View, California. Flew all the way from Houston, Texas with nothing prepared. And that's what I was guided to do. For those of you who have had readings with me, you're somewhat familiar with how Source sounds through me. But none of us had ever experienced an experience that you're going to witness on video. What I did was stood in front of a room full of mostly strangers with nothing prepared, and then moved over to the side and allowed Source to speak for 90 minutes. I had no preparation. I had no idea what God was going to say, and I had to just trust. Now, part of that was God testing me, but another part of that was showing you that if I can do this, if I can have the courage to let go and let the being that is this great being that's in every cell of the universe work through me, you can too. So you can have strength and faith in your own mission, in your own purpose, and give it time that it needs to grow, but it will happen. Thanks so much for tuning in. You're going to love this video. See you soon.
So God says, the most important thing for each of you to realize is that Sondra is not talking. Sondra is not talking. Sondra is allowing. What's being allowed is the source energy to move through her body the way that cells are permeable. The permeability of cells will allow fluid to come into them only if it is beneficial, and then blocks out all of the non-beneficial information for the cell. This is exactly how the nature of God is. God is a flow of being through all cells of the entire universe. And when a cell recognizes itself as the nature of God, God is reflected in the cell, and then the cell knows itself as God, and then there's nothing but the effort of God within that cell. This is how healing works. This is how adorning works. And let me explain first what adorning is. Adorning is when an individual maintains their flow so well, they become adorned by the way of God. And that adornment is an appointment, which is anointment. When they are anointed, they become overabundant, not abundant, overabundant. And in the overabundance is a creation of great magnitude, so alarming, the individual wishes they could keep up. But that's a fruitless task. To keep up with the flow of God is like a tiny boat trying to run the rapids by paddling. The best thing to do is to get in the boat and hold on. And so, what we are doing is asking Sondra to let us come through her without any introduction, because we're testing her ability to let us flow by holding on to that boat. She's been paddling way too long. She's exhausted, and so are many of you. And in that exhaustion is opportunity for us to enliven you in the way of mourning. Now, we're going to explain how we use this word mourning, because it's two ways. Morning is sunrise, but mourning is also a sense of letting go. And what you let go of is what allows you to be the boat on the ocean, on the river, on the wave, on the flowing, on the majesty of a giant tsunami. When you become the tiny boat that moves with the rhythm of the great being, you not only find yourself completely adored, you also find yourself in a way of spinning. Why do you spin on the ocean? Why is the ocean making you spin? Does anyone want to attempt to answer that picture?
Because you're in eternity. You're in eternity, so it really doesn't matter where you are. You're at peace with yourself.
Brilliant. She said, because you're in eternity, and it doesn't matter where you are. At any time, you are embraced by the great being that sees you there, captures you, and keeps you in suspension. That suspension is exactly what we've shown Sondra tonight. She has no idea what we're going to talk about. She has no idea which one of you is going to be read tonight. And she also has no idea what's going to be found out in those readings. Because the finding out is the most profound adornment imaginable. So in that, we would like to have our first victim. Who would like to be in the wave of God, knowing their brilliance? Do I see a hand? I see the first hand there. She beat you. Come on up. Let me give you a microphone. Where did the microphone? Okay, Gary, thank you. And what is your name? Have a seat.
Thank you, Christina.
Is that in the picture? Is it okay that you're on video?
Sure.
Okay. Is that in there? She needs to come in? Come. Okay. Gary's head's in the way. He's nowhere near it. Your aura's too fat.
It's just fat aura.
It's a fat aura. Big fat aura. All right. Tell me your name again.
Christina?
Christina. Okay. So, have you ever been on a cray? Sometimes I don't know the word God is trying to say, so I stutter a little bit. Forgive me. If anyone knows what the word is, you are welcome to blurt it out. No. Have you ever been on a is it a crane? No.
Craig.
Okay. What?
Craig.
Craig? Cruise? No. God says this is a word that means lovely. Have you ever been on a that means lovely? Yes. So let's talk about this word for a second. Okay. It is a word that Sondra doesn't... Crazy? Yes. Have you ever been on a crazy ride where you thought that the world was going to end?
Metaphorically, yes.
Okay. And it's on that ride that we want to talk about who you were. Okay? You were a woman of no reward. The rewards that we talk about have to do with a system of giving and receiving. It's a flow that goes and comes, it goes and comes and goes and comes. And yours kept going and going and going and going, not coming back. But now something's changed. What's changed is that you're starting to recognize who's taking. And when you recognize who's taking, that's when you start to identify why you're allowing it. So would you share with the audience what you think is the cause of the allowing of the person that you know we're talking about? I put the microphone on your chin so you can hear.
I think probably the cause of the allowing was the non-recognition of my true worth.
That's right. When you don't recognize your true worth, no one else can see it. Because if your worth is the profound nature of the being of God within you, and you recognize that, then you hold it dear. You hold it precious. It is pearls given to you, pearls from the great being. These pearls are wisdom now for you. So we'd like to talk for a second about your loss of openness. Do you know what we're talking about?
On many levels, yes.
So a loss of openness comes when the world outside pushes. It's more than push. Crowds. It's more than crowds. Burdens. Yes, burdens. When the world outside burdens. The burdening is from a feeling that you are somehow responsible for the way people treat you. And in many cases, the only responsibility you have is how long they treat you that way. And we are going to start showing you that the length of time for people to mistreat you is going to be about that long. Okay? Not that long. But what we would like you to understand is that it's not only becoming an intolerance, it's also becoming an introspective manner. So the burdening of the world upon you is causing you to retreat, to close those open doors, and look deep within yourself for an aligning sensitivity. The sensitivity is what Sondra's doing right now. She can feel us, she can hear us, she can move with us. It's a sensitivity that's so nuanced, it's impossible to describe. Impossible. It's a nuance that is different from the nuance of you. Not separate, just different. And as you go deeper and massage this, feel this, examine this, you exert it. And in the exertion of it, you realize God's talking through you. You talk to people and you say something like, did I say that? I didn't say that. That wasn't me. Have you had those times yet? It's because you've closed off the world and you've opened up the inner being and noticed that the inner being is with you and has always been with you. And this time, though, you get to use God for your benefit, your reward, your great way. And your great way has some amazing, amazing personality rewards. The personality rewards have to do with your purpose, and if you would like to hear your purpose, we'd love to tell you.
Sure.
Okay, all right. So the reason you were born was to give others a sense of accomplishment. You are designed to award people with a sense of accomplishment. So how are you going to do that in the world? How have you already started?
I think by being an extremely good listener and reflecting people back their own divinity.
Will you put your mic closer
Sure.
so that people can hear that beautiful
Sure.
work?
I said by being a really good listener and reflecting back to people their own divinity is a way that I try to do that and try to show up in the world.
So you're going to go beyond that, though, because, of course, seeing their divinity is very important, but seeing how they play out the divinity is what you're going to be showing them. So you're going to be showing people, if you do this, the accomplishment becomes an excitement in you that your passion works against you. Okay, this is a double entendre God's using. Okay. When your passion works against you, it creates a friction that causes a fire. A fire. Working your passions in line with your passions leads you to dead ends. Passions for the sake of passion is a dead end. And nobody talks about that because they feel deflated. They're on this passion ride. And then all of a sudden it stops. The energy stops. Things start to crumble. There's nothing left for you. And it's because the ride of passion is an illusion. It's an illusion to have emotional connection to your journey. The emotional connection to your journey is only about elatedness. Elatedness is enlightenment. Elated within. And that comes from the reward that you get from your giving. When you give, whatever it is that you are in line to give, and what you receive back is gratitude, life-altering stories, and ingenious sense about you, you can ride that wave till the ends of the earth. But passions fade because you run out of steam on a passion whim. So what was a recent passion that ran out for you?
A romantic relationship.
Okay, that's another passion that can run out. Because if your relationship is built on passion, and then suddenly the real you shows up that isn't very romantic, isn't very pretty in the morning, doesn't smell very good when you walk out of the bathroom, when the world starts to see all of the things about you that are not the picture of passion, then there's nothing else to look at. You just become a disappointment. But when you have a relationship that is built on mutual reward, mutual giving, mutual denying, meaning you deny in each other the illusion of storytelling. You deny each other the illusion of storytelling. You don't allow them to get away with being less than they are. Because you know them and love them so well, you can't help but say, hey, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. How many of you have had someone in your life who can call you on your bullshit and still love you? Yep. Because they're there for the same growth that you are. And your growth inspires them, not generates jealousy or a fear that your success means that you'll leave them, so they get over controlling, try to hold you back, keep you from your family. But when they see you prosper, they look at you with the same eyes they looked at you with when they fell in love with your being the first time. Because that's what they saw the first time. If what they saw the first time is your sexiness or things that about you they want in their own life that have to do with the small things that aren't related to the big being that they are without a body, and those small things you stop doing, you stop opening doors for them, stop making dinner for them, stop bringing flowers. When you stop doing those things and the other person suddenly sees you as a jerk because you don't do those things anymore, it was built on passion. Now, a life with an individual that is built on the wave of being would say, honey, how come you don't get me flowers anymore? And there's no emotional attachment to that. Just curious. Don't you love me like you used to? No, actually, honey, I love you more. And in that love, of loving you more, I see that the reward of cut flowers doesn't measure up to the reward of your love for me. Your love for me is so powerful. I can't imagine giving you flowers. I can't imagine giving you things because the connection to you is so overpowering, the gift and the reward that we receive every day, if not from the genuine affection, at least from the learning. The fights are learning. If you grow from your fights, you're in the way of God. If you disappear from each other because of fights, you're in the way of passion. So this is what we mean by working against your passions. Because they're short, they're burning, and their lack of reward is disintegrating. Disintegrates you because you feel duped. Okay. Do you have a question for us that we can answer?
I actually didn't come up with any particular question. I was just wanted to be open to anything that Spirit had to share with me. Okay. So I guess that would be my question. If there's anything that I need to know that I should be hearing right now.
Yes, there is. Who is it that is pushing you into something you don't want to do?
I can't think of anybody out there. The only thing would just be my own internal voices trying to decide where to direct myself or where to go next. So I'd be the only one that's doing that to myself.
Very good, very good. So when you think in your mind the decisions you're going to be making, and you feel like one of them is something you have to push yourself to do, and the others seem much easier to do, it's possible that's not the right choice. Because God never wants anyone to do anything that's so damn hard, you have to push yourself to do it. What we'd prefer is that you allow yourself to overcome something that is blocking you from doing it. If there's something blocking you, recognize what that is. If you see it, you know what it is, and if you know it's in the way of doing what is the great way of you, then slowly make it smaller, make it smaller, make it smaller, until you can turn it into dust and it goes away. And that's what's going on for you right now. Your soul is yearning to overcome a great fear. And this fear is, how do I earn a living doing what I love? The fear that comes from that is about, how do I make a living? Not, how do I do what I love? Right? So you can separate those two things. How do I make a living? You can do anything that brings food to the table. Anything. So long as you're building your life with what you love. Sondra supported herself for 3 years doing things that are related to the love, but not that. And it wasn't until she met the great being, Gary Springfield, that the light opened up and she saw there is a great expanse for her to just walk. She doesn't have to decide anything. Just walk. But the only reason she has the freedom to do that now is because the living she focused on, she got so good at it, she's in demand if she just says, hey, I'm available for a project. But that took some time, focus, and dedication at the same time that she was writing her book, that she was learning how to publish a book, that she was learning how to write a book proposal, that she was moving forward and trying to understand what kind of workshops she's going to be doing, how to do events, how to get out into the world. And the first big event she went to, she did a reading for one of Gary's students, and that's how Gary and Sondra met. And those who have been to Gary and Sondra's workshops know what an amazing connection that was, because it is the stepping forward no matter what. No matter what. But doubt gets in the way. Fear gets in the way. That's why we suggest what you do for a living is separate from what you love for a while. So you can build the foundation for great knowing and give it no pressure. And here, you just give yourself no pressure because there's food on the table, there's a roof over your head, and there's shoes on your feet. Simple. It means you work 2 jobs. Okay? All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming up here and being. Thank you. Come here. There's so much to give. So much to give. You're welcome. And I love your cowboy boots. It's so funny to be with God, like God's talking, and I'm kind of in the background going, oh, I love those shoes. It's such a girl thing, right? Well, maybe not. It could be a guy thing too, but.
I sold shoes once.
What's that?
I sold shoes once, and I looked at everyone's shoes.
You sold
Yeah,
shoes?
when I was in college, I sold shoes for $1 just to have food on the table, and I walked around looking at everyone's shoes all the time.
Wow, what did you learn from that? Put your mic in.
I didn't want to be a shoe seller.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. So now we have talked about an enormous range of love, passion, responsibility, nurturing what is your love. We want to now talk about something that's a little bit harder to understand, but we think that we've primed the pump for you. And we want you to be ready to go deep. We want you to be ready to open your imagination. Let your imagination build pictures. They may not be the right pictures, and we'll correct some of you, but the pictures are going to train you how to move your mind. Because when you move your mind, that's when you learn how to listen to the mind of God. Moving your mind is an action you take. Rather than just letting the mind move itself and you walk about being a victim of your own mind, this time you're going to wake up in the dream and start directing the dream. You ready? Okay. All right. In the forest, there is a bunny, and this little bunny has nothing to do all day except to find food. That's all it wants to do, and it's all it needs to do. Until, of course, it sees another bunny, and that bunny is something that the first bunny can enjoy with great vigor. And so the first bunny greets the second bunny in the special bunny way, and then begins its assertive behavior. Nothing comes of it this time because the first bunny isn't paying attention to the second bunny's gender. Just needs something to do what bunnies do. Doesn't care. So nothing comes of it. There's no more bunnies made from this bunny action. But there is a sense of joy in the first bunny, who then goes off looking for food, because after that experience, of course, the bunny's hungry. So it goes down the bunny trail, and it does its bunny way with its cute little button tail and its ears moving about, because it hears something else in the forest, something that may cause it great danger. So it stops in its tracks, and as it stops there, it disappears. It disappears into the path because it is the color of the bunny trail. It doesn't move. It just listens. Just beyond the path is a deer. A deer is no threat to the bunny. And so the bunny says, I can go now. But this time, the deer comes closer to the bunny. And the bunny hears the deer coming closer and doesn't know what to do because that's not usual. That's not usual. So the bunny stops again and freezes and hears the deer moving closer and closer and closer and closer until the bunny feels a wet nose on its nose. What is that nose? I know. This is my friend. This is my friend, the fawn. Hello, fawn. Hello, friend. What are you doing today? Eating flowers. So am I. Let's go. Okay. So they walk along and begin to look for flowers. And the deer goes to flowers that are high up, and the bunny goes to flowers and then discovers there's carrots. There's carrots down here. Look down here. And the carrots begin to be eaten. But all of a sudden, they hear a sound. This isn't a good one. No, this sound is not a good sound. It can't be good. It's moving too fast. It's moving too fast. Run, run, run. So the bunny and the fawn run. Damn rabbits. Damn rabbits. Guess I'll have to get that fence up after all. I don't like fences. I have to crawl over them. They're ugly. But those damn rabbits. Why are those rabbits always eating our food? Guess I'll have to build fences. So the next day, the bunny and the deer goes back to the carrots. But they can't get in. They don't know why. They can't get in. There's wire. What is this? I can't get in. I can't. There's the carrots. I see the carrots. I can't get in. So the deer reaches over and pulls the carrot out of the ground for the bunny. And together they enjoy the garden again. But they hear a sound they should not be hearing. They should not be hearing. It's fast. It's loud. Run! 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 I guess the fence isn't high enough. I'm going to need more wire. So the next day, the rabbit and the fawn do their thing, and the fawn can't get to the carrots. I can't get to the carrots. I can't get to the carrots. Bunny, I'm so sorry, Bunny. I can't get your carrots. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? This is where we eat. This is where we eat. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Don't worry. Don't worry. We'll get food. We'll find food. So they go off. And the gardener comes back out and sees that everything is exactly the way he left it. Now, open your eyes. What we've described here is safety. Can anyone give us just one word to describe how safety was shown here? Okay, interesting. Who said that? Interesting. Who else? What are you saying? Are you saying something? Yeah, you sure? Okay. When you were in that picture, where was safety? Run. Very good.
Being the authority.
Being the authority. Interesting. Who? Sorry? The fence. Excellent. That's what I would have thought of. Fence. Okay. So what you see here is a word that inspires the concept of where your safety lies. Siobhan, that's just an amazing answer. Really. That shows where you are. And that's outstanding. When trust is your safety, you are standing in the place of perfection. Not that the others are imperfect, they're not at all. But when you are trusting the way, you'll know you can get more food. You'll know no one takes your food. You'll know that your connection to your friends is your safety. You'll know that everything works out the way that nature is taking its course. However, when we turn into the great ways of flight, authority, when we turn into fences, which is what I tend to do for safety, when we call upon these sources for safety, we create patterns. These patterns come with self-recognition. Self-recognition is safe in one way of dealing with fear. One way of dealing with fear. And that's why your soul comes here to overcome something to expand. Because if you've been running, it's possible that that running has been going on for eons. Life after life after life after life, you have run and run and run and run. It's not until the life of your being decides, I want to know what it's like to stay when I'm afraid. I want to know what is it like if I stay when I'm afraid. What happens? Will I die? I can't die. There's no such thing as death. Will I get eaten? No, I don't think so. I don't live in the wild, so I can't be eaten. But what will I do when the fear comes to me and I'm used to running? What do? Do I look at it? I look at it. That's what I do. I look at it. What does it tell me? It doesn't tell me to stay. It tells me to run. It tells me to run. But if it told me to stay, what would I do with it? I would shrink it. I would overpower it. I would allow the great being to move me through it. Because when you allow the great being to move through you, the fear is nothing. Nothing. So let's look at authority. I like authority. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, in the sense of authority, who is it that is the authority in this picture?
The farmer.
Mm-hmm. And the farmer's authority is about overcoming the obstacles for his expression of giving. This is an expression of giving. When somebody gardens, they love to see the giving come. They love to see the giving placed and then the giving come. And when something comes along and takes their giving, it feels awful. Awful. My giving is being taken. So the authorship of this situation takes over and does what is necessary to overcome the obstacles that takes away the giving. But what's interesting is that you didn't say that the fence was safety. You said the mind of creation is safety. Because you create any new reality that would give you back your giving way. You know there's no way that something could take that from you because you are the authority. You're the authority of the experience you have in this life. And that is the truth. That is truth. I am the authority of this situation. I experience what I experience because I allow that experience to happen. This is the first step to trust. Because it is in your authorship of your life, in the great creative way, that tells you no matter what comes up, it's achievable, it's manageable, it's changeable, it's adjustable, it's adaptable, no matter what comes up. I am the authority. The next thing that happens is trusting you are always the authority. This is very different from the idea that everything happens to you. It's a different I. It's a totally different I. This is the I am. The other I, thinking that there's nothing that you can do about this situation, which the bunny expressed. The bunny expressed what happened to my carrots. We can't eat. I'll go hungry. Thankfully, the fawn says, no, it's okay, we can do it, we can do it. That reassurance from a friend is sometimes the best saving grace for any situation that can destroy you in a moment of dark thoughts. So the next stage of this, though, is the fence, which is what Sondra thought of, because what a fence does is it fences in and keeps things out. When you fence yourself in and keep things out that could destroy you, what you're saying is, it is within these walls that I am protected. And inside these walls, the protection allows me to be what I want to be. I can be what I want to be when I am within these boundaries. And nothing can take anything away from me that I don't want them to. So long as I am in these boundaries, that was the learning last night. So long as the conditions are the way I want them to be, then I am free to be me. Can you see how isolating that is? Yeah, how isolating. And even though you don't push on other people the things that you would have them do in order to make the conditions right for you. You don't allow yourself to be given to by people who can support you and help you. So when you block yourself out, you build all of your conditions and everything looks right from right here. But what does it stop you from? Growing. You can't expand in this. There's no way. And this is my lesson. This is a lesson I'm learning and just learned from last night. Sondra. I'm sorry, I got in the way. Don't worry. So when you explore where your safety lies, and you deny the illusion of it, you start to surrender to the great knowing. And the great knowing isn't going to tell you to run unless you need to run. Okay? And it's not going to tell you you need to protect yourself unless you need to protect yourself. And it's not going to tell you that you need to be the boss unless you need to be the boss. And the only time that gets in your way, Gary, is when you think you should have been the boss and you suddenly realize you weren't the boss. And everything just went because you weren't the boss. But the joy of you loves when other people shine around you. You love to see people shine. And so you're willing in those times to forget you're the boss. So don't ever beat yourself up when things go. Okay? Because the boss is in charge. The big boss. God calls Gary sport sometimes. So cute. So cute. Sport. When everything is working in your favor, you know something's going to go wrong. This is working out way too good lately. Way too good. Something's going to go wrong. But when you are in the trusting game, when you are in the solution way, it just keeps going and going and going and going, and it doesn't screw up. And when it does screw up just a little bit, you know that something's being taught to you. There's something you need to pay attention to. Okay? So we would like now to admire the soul of another. Who would like to be? Look at you two, just like twins there. Are you? All right. God says, we want the one in the glasses. Oh boy, you won. Hi, what's your name?
Marsha.
Marsha, sit down, Marsha. Here is your great scepter. All right, Marsha. There's things you know that if people knew you knew them, they would think that you are some kind of superstar they overlooked. You know things that you only hint at when you're having conversations with people. Because if they knew what you know, you'd have to live up to that image all the time. Now, you may not know what we're talking about. I can see in your eyes. Oh, you do know or you don't know? Sort of, okay. So Picture yourself in a situation where there are what's that word? Sensing? No. There are, picture yourself in a location where there are sounds. Sounds. Okay. It's because we don't know each other. I don't know anything about you, so I don't know the language that God's stringing together. Sounds. Okay, picture yourself in a room where there are sounds. In these sounds, you hear, and when you hear that, you manage to hear the things that are going on in the room without vocal cords. Right? Your wavelength is the wavelength of the frequency of a room when you assemble the great way of you. When you assemble the great way of you, the room takes on the frequency of your being. And that's why you hear other people talking who haven't said a word. Do you recognize this? Yes. Yes. So that's what we mean when we say, if people knew what you knew, you'd be looked at as a superstar. You look so confused by that.
I just testified this week.
So let me check and make sure that's on. Did everybody hear that?
No.
Hello,
Maybe it just
hello,
wasn't meant
hello. No, don't say that. We don't play that. See if it says, we don't play that. Maybe it wasn't meant to be heard. You raise your hand. You raise your hand, darling. Hold it down longer, maybe?
Hello.
Yay. Okay. So,
So I was in a courtroom this Wednesday. I testified. I was a witness, and the sounds and everything that went through was overwhelming.
but you heard in the sounds so much. What you heard is that there is a matrix of sound that opens when you listen at a certain wave. When you listen at a certain wave, there's a matrix of sound that creates an abundance of vocal ranges. Does that make sense to you yet? Or it does? Sort of. Okay. So the reason we picked you to talk about this is because if people really understood what was happening in this phenomena, they would get a license to know what's in other people's heads. Are there people in here besides Astrid who already experiences that? Mm-hmm. So what if you can experience what's in other people's heads? What kind of power is that for you? Or for some people, it can be disempowering.
I think it's fun.
It can be sometimes a little too overwhelming. And what we're talking about here is the power to direct the flow of those sounds. You have the power to direct those if you learn how to manipulate them, because this is why you were born. You were born to do this. how would that fit into this? I'm confused, so God's asking this. How would this fit in to the idea that frequency lives within the wave of people's thoughts beyond their body? Being a whistleblower is not your purpose in life, but there is a connection to your purpose with regard to this. Okay? So let's talk about your purpose. Your purpose is to engineer a way of recording ambient sound so that it pulls in the language of the unseen realm.
Healing, hopefully.
Well, healing's a pretty generic term for what's actually going on. Because when you can record the sound of the unseen realm, what you have is proof that the unseen realm exists. Okay? And do you know why this is important?
Because people have to hear it.
And
It's
why?
time. It's time
And why do they have to hear it?
for healing, for the elevation of
But whose healing is it in this?
my own of my fears. I never wanted to be in a situation like this. And it's smack right here. Exactly what you said, the fear. And I wanted to be in that little corner of just hiding.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you talking about the whistleblowing, or are you talking about the purpose?
I don't know. I got lost. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So we want to try to take you out of the whistleblowing head for a minute. We'll come back to it. But your purpose on earth is to engineer a way to record the voice of the unseen. So the reason this isn't making any sense to you is because you've never thought of it before.
Never.
But what do you do for a living?
I'm a lawyer.
And when you lawyer, what are you actually doing?
Healing. I attempted to heal chaos.
Okay, so let's use a different word, because as a lawyer, people don't think of lawyers as healing.
That's what I am.
But what do they do legally?
Communicate opinions and attempt to resolve diverting situations, chaos.
Okay, we're going to give it to you on this one.
sorry.
That's okay, honey. You obviously are overwhelmed by an experience. So don't worry about that. What a lawyer does is defends. So an engineer who wants to record the realm of the unseen, they are defending the rights, the ways, the lives of those who don't have bodies. And the reason that you were born to do this is because you were once trapped. You were trapped on earth, not able to move outside of the ways of your own being. So your being was basically in somebody's room doing this. And the only reason that you were freed was a little girl saw you. A little girl looked up and saw you doing this. And she asked you, what are you doing? And you looked at her. And suddenly in this escape of this wandering in a tiny spot, you had a reflection of yourself in a little girl who saw you. And you wanted to know, how did she see me? Nobody else has seen me. I've been here a long time. Nobody's seen me. How did she see me? How many people are like this? And in your questions, you started to release yourself from that which trapped you. And your energy started to rise. As you rose in your frequency, you were captured by what we call a stand-in soul. The stand-in soul reaches down into the chasm of darkness where souls who are trapped on earth dwell. And when those souls are ready to reach up into the knowing and the wanting and the being, they go through the stand-in soul. And when you escaped to the other side, you wanted to help the millions of other souls that are trapped. So becoming an attorney was just one way of expressing this desire in the world. But now you're being told it goes far beyond that. So now it's time for you to start picking up your path and walking it as an engineer of sound. Okay? It's just a seed we're planting. Is there anything going on in your life right now that's even remotely near this?
Well, an enemy from my past has just come into this whole situation 13 years ago, in which I protected myself, and the person is back into here with this whole whistle-blowing situation. So it was just the past coming back into making it more of a nightmare, if nothing else.
Okay.
And my fear, my greatest fear, is right back in my face.
Okay.
This is a nightmare.
That's very obvious. That's very obvious. So when you get this recording, you're going to hear your purpose again. But you're going to be in a totally different frame of mind, and you're going to hear it differently. Okay? Okay? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What was your name again? Marsha. Marsha. Okay. You got so much to do, girl. You take my card. If there's my cards are around here. And when you're ready, you get an hour reading with me, okay? Because you got a lot to do.
That was profound.
Thanks. Thank you. All right. So, how's everybody feel about what time do I stop? Does anybody know?
Midnight.
Because it's like 10 till 9 already, and that's when I stop is like 9, right? Okay. So we have 10 more minutes. So who would like to be the last? She was first with her hand up. Sorry. And of course, I will be here tomorrow doing readings. And there won't be as many. I raised my price because last time it was just so many people, so little time. So this time we just raised the price so I could do them a little bit longer. They'll be a little bit longer, and there's going to be less people. So it's just going to be a little more intimate. But it'll be awesome. What's your name?
Trish.
Trish. Okay. Trish has something she wants to say. What is it?
I want to change the world, but and I am feeling very fearful about it right now.
Okay. And that's because it's impossible to change the world.
Okay.
Okay? The world, however, changes in your perspective when you start walking your path. It no longer looks the way you thought it looked. It suddenly goes from, there's too much to do, to, I can't wait to get started. And how you do that is you identify step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. Because when you look out and you see that all the stuff that has to be done, you turn into this crumbling, I can't do it, no, 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 no. And that's where you want to stay.
That's where I am right now. Yeah.
So when you perfect the knowing that you are supported by a great being, you just have to keep your blinders on to the future and look, what do I need to do right now? And then do it. And every day you get your little, Sondra uses 4x5 cards. And every day write down what's going to be done that day. At the end of 2 months, you're going to be farther than you ever imagined yourself being. Because the little steps add up. And then they get exponentially added to them. Because one thing that is on your path, step by step, little step, suddenly you meet someone who takes you here. You didn't do it. You just did this. And you showed up. And then you got there. Okay? The first thing you have to know is that you cannot change the world because the world is evolving. It is an evolving way. It evolves. And you have a purpose in it. And as you evolve, you bring people into your life that change the picture of the world. It suddenly becomes amazing. And you don't want to change everything. You just want to keep creating this amazing. And those who are ready for that amazing come to you. And if they're not ready for that amazing, just either wait for them or say goodbye to them. Okay? Mm-hmm. So we'd like to tell you your purpose in this small time that we have left.
All right.
Okay? Tell me your first name again.
Trish.
I'm sorry, when I'm doing this, my short-term memory is terrible. Okay. So, God says, Trish is a name that means tree, T-R, tree. Ish is tree-ish. Tree-ish. A tree-ish is someone who is in the expansion of all limbs out. All limbs out means that you gather from the great way and bring it into the great ground. How does that work? The tree-ish doesn't move. It doesn't move. It's being. And as it's being, it expands with each branch, each twig, each leaf, each root. It expands, not moving, not speaking, just being. And so in this just being, your role is to allow others to sit in your shade, to climb your branches, to swing, to love, to share, to eat, to enjoy. That is your total purpose. And you know why that's your purpose? Because in your last life, you never let anybody enjoy anything. So in this life, we stabilized you. And now, you're going to learn to see from the center outward is the only way you want to be. So you don't have to change the world at all, right? Because from your vantage point, it just gets better and better and better and better. Okay, Trish, it's very nice to meet you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I'm sure there's a lot of details that God could tell us about on that, but that's all we get. So I want to thank you all for being so attentive and appreciative and smiley and warm. It's what makes it possible for me, Sondra, to get out of the way. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me on this amazing journey. The journey of what we call Source Speaks. If I can have the courage to let go and let the being that is this great being that's in every cell of the universe work through me, you can too. So you can have strength and faith in your own mission and your own purpose and give it time that it needs to grow, but it will happen. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you soon.